I can still remember the day when I felt the first cracks in my marriage to Jessica. We had been together for 5 years, married for 2, and everything seemed good on the surface. Jessica was beautiful, intelligent, and had a sharp wit that I was drawn to from the beginning. We were what people called a power couple, but as I soon found out, things were not what they seemed. It started with small things. Jessica was a little more irritable, a little more distant. I attributed it to her stressful job at the marketing firm where she worked, but the signs were undeniably there. She frequently canceled our plans at the last minute, claiming work had piled up. The late nights became more common, and I began to notice that she was glued to her phone. She would smile and giggle at something on the screen while I was right there, trying to engage her in conversation. It was infuriating, and I could feel that wall growing between us. Things escalated when she got a new coworker. His name was Ryan, and he was everything I wasn't: charming, handsome, and apparently always available for drinks after work. Jessica would often mention him in passing, how fun he was, how creative his ideas were. The more she talked about him, the more uneasy I felt. The intuitive part of me was screaming that something was off, but I just tried to brush it aside. One night, after yet another canceled dinner, I decided to take a stroll around the neighborhood to clear my head. As I walked, my mind raced with thoughts of Jessica and how I could fix whatever was going wrong. When I returned home, I decided to take a peek at her phone. I know, it's a massive invasion of privacy, but it felt like I was on the verge of losing something precious, and I needed answers. I found her phone on the kitchen counter, the screen lighting up with notifications. There was a message from Ryan. My heart dropped. I hesitated for a moment, but ultimately opened the text thread. What I found turned my world upside down. The messages were full of intimate jokes, subtle flirtations, and insults about me. Jessica was making fun of me to him, calling me boring and overly sensitive, and suggesting that he should come over when she needed some real fun. I couldn't believe it. My chest felt tight and I could barely breathe. I printed out the texts in a blur of disbelief, anger, and betrayal. I couldn't let this go unaddressed. Fueled by a mix of shock and fury, I knew I had to confront her. Our Sunday dinner with her parents was approaching, and I decided that was the perfect time. I could hardly wait to see the look on her face when I revealed her betrayal in front of her family, the people who had always adored her. I made the decision that would set off a chain reaction of events that would change everything. All of this was swirling in my head as I mentally prepared for the confrontation. I didn't sleep well that night. I was too busy crafting my speech, picturing her shocked face when I unveiled the evidence of her infidelity. The anticipation grew inside me, and I knew I had to follow through. It was time to put an end to the lies. As I sat at the dinner table, the rich smell of roasted chicken filling the air, I couldn't help but feel a mix of dread and excitement. The tension built as I waited for the right moment. I could see Jessica laughing with her parents, but all I could think about were the texts I had printed out, crumpled in my pocket. The moment of revelation was almost upon us, and I felt an unsettling mixture of triumph and sadness. That evening would change everything for us, and I was ready to face the fallout. Little did I know, this would only be the beginning of a tangled web of emotions, deceit, and revenge that would unfold over the coming weeks. The dinner began with laughter and the clinking of wine glasses. Jessica's parents, Susan and Tom, were the quintessential loving couple, always supportive and genuinely excited to see us. I felt like an intruder in my own marriage, like an outsider peering into a perfectly constructed facade. As we shared stories and pleasantries, I could see how Jessica's laughter was contagious, lighting up the room like nothing was amiss. But beneath that surface, turmoil raged within me, urging me to act. I waited for the right moment, my heart pounding in my ears, as Susan asked Jessica about work. "How'd that new campaign going, Jess?" she inquired, her eyes sparkling with maternal pride. "Oh, it's great," Jessica replied, her voice bright and cheerful. "Ryan has been such a great help, he's really fun to work with." "Ryan," I muttered under my breath, clenching my fists tighter. The conversation rolled on, and I felt the tension in my chest grow heavier. Finally, I decided it was time. Actually, I interrupted, raising my voice just enough to catch everyone's attention. There's something important I need to share with you all. The room fell silent, and Jessica turned to me with a puzzled expression, her smile fading. What is it, honey? I reached into my pocket, pulling out the crumpled papers that felt like a loaded gun in my hand. I found something I think you should all know. I laid the printed texts out on the table for everyone to see, the words glaring back at us like a neon sign flashing infidelity. Jessica's face drained of color as her eyes scanned the words. What the hell is this? She stammered, trying to retain her composure. Looks like your fun times. With Ryan weren't just work-related, I shot back, my voice steady but laced with pain. You've been making fun of me behind my back while flirting with him. How long has this been going on, Jess? Her parents exchanged incredulous looks, with Susan's hand flying to her mouth as Tom shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Jessica, is this true? Tom asked, his voice firm yet concerned. I can explain, she began, her voice trembling. This is just a misunderstanding. Ryan and I were just joking around. You know how things can get at work. Joking, I scoffed. You called me boring and suggested he come over for real fun. How is that a joke, Jessica? The tension in the air was electric. I could feel the weight of her parents' eyes on us, disappointment and disbelief etched across their faces. Jessica opened her mouth to speak again, but no words came out. She looked as if she was on the verge of tears. Don't you dare turn this around on me, I continued, my anger surging. You've betrayed me and now you're trying to act like it's nothing. I made a mistake, I didn't mean it like that, she pleaded, her voice rising. It was just a phase and I didn't want to hurt you. Didn't want to hurt me, I exclaimed, incredulous. You have no idea how much you hurt me. This isn't just a little mistake, this is betrayal. Susan finally spoke up, her voice trembling with emotion. Jessica, how could you do this to him? We raised you better than this. I didn't think it would go this far, Jessica replied, her tone shifting from defensive to desperate. I just wanted to feel special again. I felt a swell of anger and sadness wash over me. It was like watching someone I loved shatter right in front of my eyes. The woman I had built my life with was now admitting to seeking validation from another man. The room was heavy with silence, and I could hear the faint sound of my heart breaking. I had expected her to show remorse, to apologize, but instead, she was scrambling for excuses. I felt utterly betrayed, not just by her infidelity, but by the fact that she thought so. Little of our marriage. My mind raced with thoughts of what I should do next. Should I scream? Should I walk out? Or should I stay and hear her empty apologies? Tom cleared his throat, trying to restore some semblance of order. Jessica, you need to be honest with yourself and with him. You need to take responsibility for your actions. The gravity of the moment pressed down on Jessica and she finally broke. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at me. I'm so sorry, Mark, she sobbed. I messed up. I don't know how it happened. The sincerity of her apology struck me like a blow, but the shock still coursed through me. I wanted to believe her, but could I ever truly trust her again? The emotional turmoil was almost unbearable. It felt like I was standing on a precipice, looking down into an abyss of uncertainty. As her parents looked on with a mix of sympathy and disappointment, I knew that everything had changed in an instant. No longer were we the perfect couple. We were now two people standing on opposite sides of a chasm, each grappling with our own truths and betrayals. The consequences of this moment would echo far beyond that Sunday dinner. As I sat there, watching Jessica crumble before me, everything felt surreal. The weight of the printed texts lay heavily on the table, a stark reminder of the breach of trust. I had to process my emotions while also grappling with her confession. Part of me wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but another part screamed for self-preservation. I was torn between the love I once felt and the anger boiling within me. I don't know if I can forgive you, Jessica, I finally managed to say, my voice low but steady. This isn't something you can just brush off as a mistake. You let another man take my place in your heart, and I don't know how to come back from that. I could see the desperation in her eyes, as if she was grasping at straws, hopping to salvage something from the wreckage. Please, Mark, she cried, her voice cracking. I want to fix this. I love you. This was just a stupid mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. Love, you call this love? I shot back, unable to contain the bitterness that seeped into my words, because it feels more like betrayal to me. I thought we were building a life together, and now I find out you've been laughing at me while you were with him. Her parents shifted uneasily, clearly caught between wanting to comfort their daughter and grappling with their disappointment. Jessica, you need to be honest with yourself, Tom said again, trying to interject some rationality into the chaos. You can't just go around hurting people and expect them to understand. I know, she wailed, her hands covering her face as her emotions erupted. I can't believe I let it get this far. I was just feeling so lost, and he was just there. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything. I echoed, incredulous. You shared your insecurities with him. You were intimate with him. How can you say that didn't mean anything? In that moment, everything felt like an emotional whirlwind, a chaotic mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to lash out, but I also felt a deep sadness for what our relationship. Come, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I shared my life with, was slipping away into someone I could hardly recognize. As the tension in the room thickened, I felt a surge of resolve. I couldn't let this go unanswered. This is not who I want to be, Jessica, I said firmly, looking her directly in the eyes. I can't continue in this marriage if it means dealing with your betrayal. I need time to think. Her face twisted in disbelief. Mark, please don't say that. I can change. I will change. I'll cut off all contact with Ryan. Just give me a chance to prove it. But I needed more than promises. I needed to feel secure in my own life again, not constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if she would stray again. I don't know if I can believe that, I replied, my voice steady yet tinged with sorrow. Her parents remained silent, casting concerned glances at one another while the reality of the situation sank in. They could see their daughter was in serious trouble, and they were at a loss for how to help her. We'll give you both the space you need, Susan finally said, trying to ease the tension. But Jessica, you need to understand the gravity of what you've done. As the dinner came to an awkward end, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I stood up, unable to sit there any longer, and walked towards the door. I just need to be alone, I said quietly, almost to myself. Mark, wait, Jessica called after me, desperation in her voice. I turned around, my heart aching at the sight of her tears glistening in the dim light. I can't do this right now, Jess, I said, my voice breaking. I need to figure out what I want, what's best for me. With that, I left the house, stepping out into the cool night air. The world felt strangely calm outside, a sharp contrast to the storm raging within me. I drove aimlessly, the road blurring beneath my tires as I replayed every moment of that dinner in my mind. I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare, unable to wake up. Finally, I pulled over to a quiet park, parking under the dim glow of a street lamp. I sat in my car, the silence enveloping me like a shroud. The betrayal played on a loop in my mind, each thought more painful than the last. I wanted to cry, to scream, to do something to release the pent-up rage and heartache, but I felt utterly frozen. I knew I needed a plan. I couldn't just let this situation fester. I had to think about my next steps carefully. Did I want to fight for the marriage, or was it time to move on? The questions loomed large, and I was determined to find answers, no matter how painful the process would be. The emotional roller coaster I was on was far from over. I needed to take control of my life again, but I had no idea what that would look like. The only thing I knew for sure was that I couldn't go back to the way things were. I needed to find a way to reclaim my dignity and my happiness, even if it meant walking away from the woman I thought I knew. The ensuing days would test my resolve and force me to confront not only Jessica, but also my own feelings about love, trust, and forgiveness. In the days that followed, I found myself in a state of limbo, caught between anger and heartbreak. I didn't return home that night after the dinner confrontation. Instead, I crashed at a friend's place, unsure of how to face Jessica or what to say if I did. My mind was a swirling vortex of thoughts and emotions, replaying every moment of our relationship, trying to decipher where things had gone so wrong. I spent time with my friend Ryan, who was supportive but also puzzled by the situation. "Dude, I can't believe she would do that to you," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "You guys seemed so happy." "Yeah, well, that's the illusion, isn't it?" I replied, pouring myself another drink. I thought we were solid, but clearly I was blind to what was happening right under my nose. "Have you thought about what you want to do?" he asked, his gaze steady on mine. "You can't just let this sit. You need to figure out if it's worth trying to fix or if it's time to move on." I nodded, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on me. "I know. I just can't believe she would betray me like this. It feels like everything we built was a lie." After a few days of solitude and reflection, I decided it was time to have another conversation with Jessica. I needed clarity, closure, or perhaps a glimpse of hope that we could rebuild what had been broken. I contacted her, and she eagerly agreed to meet at a coffee shop, our usual spot, where we'd shared countless laughs and deep conversations. When I arrived, Jessica was already there, her eyes red-rimmed and her expression a mix of hope and fear. She looked different, lost, and I felt a pang of sympathy despite my anger. "Hey," she said softly, standing up to greet me. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. I didn't want to show her how much I was hurting, but I also knew I had to be honest. We sat down, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. "I really want to apologize for everything," Jessica began, her voice shaking slightly. "I realize now how my actions could have hurt you. I was selfish and I didn't think about the consequences." "Selfish is one way to put it," I replied, not holding back my frustration. "You had a choice, Jessica. You could have come to me and communicated what you were feeling instead of seeking attention from someone else." "I know," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. I felt so disconnected from you. I didn't know how to talk to you about it. I thought maybe I could find that excitement again, but I was so wrong." It was hard to hear her admit to her mistakes, but I also felt an overwhelming sense of betrayal that overshadowed her remorse. "Do you really understand the gravity of what you did? This isn't just a bump in the road, this was a complete derailment of our relationship." She nodded, her gaze dropping to the table. "I do. I was incredibly stupid. I never wanted to hurt you. Ryan meant nothing to me, I swear. It was just a stupid fling, a way to escape my own insecurities." I felt a surge of anger mixed with a twinge of sadness. "And you thought it was okay to destroy us?" "Fleeting moment of fun, that's the part I can't wrap my head around." "I know I've messed up," she said, her voice breaking. "But I want to fix this. I love you and I want to show you that I can change. I'll do whatever it takes." Her desperation was palpable and a part of me wanted to believe her, but I was terrified of being hurt again. "Change doesn't happen overnight, Jessica. This isn't something we can just sweep under the rug. Trust is broken and it takes time to rebuild." "I'm willing to do that," she said, her eyes pleading. "I'll go to counseling and I can prove to you that I want to make this right. Just give me a chance." I sighed, feeling the enormity of her request. "I don't know if I can just jump back into this. I need space to think, to really evaluate what I want moving forward." "Take all the time you need," she replied, her voice trembling. "But please know that I'm here and I'm committed to making things right." As I left the coffee shop, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me. On one hand, I was grateful for the honesty, but on the other, I was acutely aware that her words could easily be empty promises. I couldn't let my heart be swayed by her tears. I resolved to take the time I needed to figure things out, but I had to be pragmatic. In the following weeks, I spent time reflecting on what I truly wanted and needed. I immersed myself in self-care, hitting the gym, reconnecting with friends, and focusing on my career. The more I distanced myself from the pain, the clearer my thoughts became. I began to see that while Jessica's actions hurt me deeply, I had to prioritize my well-being first. As I found solace in my own routine, I also began to consider the possibility of a future without her. Could I really rebuild the trust that had been shattered? Did I even want to? Each day brought new questions, and I knew I had to confront my feelings head-on. I had to decide whether I was willing to give our marriage another chance, or if it was time to initiate the process of letting go. The emotional journey was arduous, but I was determined to take control of my own happiness, regardless of the path I ultimately chose. I also began to think about how I would approach revenge, not out of malice, but as a means of reclaiming my power. It wouldn't involve any dramatic confrontation. Instead, it would be a quiet acknowledgement of my own strength and resilience. I would not only survive this, I would emerge stronger than before. The journey ahead would be tough, but I was ready to embrace it, one step at a time. As the weeks unfolded, I found myself navigating an emotional landscape that seemed to shift daily. I had taken the initial steps to reclaim my life, but the question of whether I should give Jessica another chance loomed heavily over me. Each day brought new moments of reflection, and sometimes I would feel a flicker of hope for our future. Other times, I was overwhelmed by memories of betrayal. One evening, while I was scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a photo of Jessica and Ryan together, posted by him. They were smiling, arms around each other, clearly enjoying some kind of outing. A wave of anger surged through me. It was as if a fresh wound had been opened and I suddenly felt nauseous. I had been trying to heal, to focus on my own path, and then this blatant display of disregard for our relationship, slammed into me like a freight train. I quickly closed the app, my heart racing. I felt a mixture of rage and powerlessness. Did she even understand the extent of the hurt she was causing? Did she think I could just sit back and watch her parade around with someone else while I was left in the shadows, trying to piece my life back together? I felt the need to act, but what could I do? I didn't want to retaliate out of revenge. I wanted to reclaim my sense of self. That night, I called Ryan, my friend, who had been my confidant throughout this ordeal. "Dude, I need your help," I said as soon as he picked up. "I think it's time for me to take control of this situation, but I don't know how." "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. "I mean, I need to do something that makes a statement," I replied, my voice steady. "I want to show Jessica that I won't be just a doormat. I want to remind her of what she's lost, but I want to do it in a way that's not about revenge but about reclaiming my dignity." Ryan paused for a moment before responding. "Okay, I'm listening. What did you have in mind?" I explained my idea. I wanted to host a gathering, a party with friends, to show that I was moving on and enjoying life without her. I thought about inviting a few of our mutual friends, maybe even a couple of attractive women, to subtly signal that I was not crushed by her actions. It was a calculated way to show that I was capable of happiness without her, and to send a clear message that I wouldn't be her backup plan. Ryan was on board and started helping me organize the event. We agreed on a date 2 weeks out, giving me enough time to plan and strategize. I carefully curated the guest list, ensuring that it included friends who would be supportive, but also those who knew Jessica and could potentially spread the word about my newfound resilience. As the day of the party approached, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. I knew this was my chance to showcase my strength, but I was also aware of the emotional risks involved. Would Jessica show up? Would she even care? The questions loomed, but I was committed to following through. The evening of the party arrived, and I transformed my apartment into a vibrant space filled with laughter and good vibes. The aroma of food wafted through the air while music played in the background, setting a lively tone. Friends began to arrive, and I greeted each one with a smile, hiding any trace of the tumultuous feeling still lingering inside me. As the night unfolded, I felt a surge of confidence. I mingled, laughed, and even flirted a bit, enjoying the attention and the sense of freedom that came with it. I could see Ryan chatting with some of our friends, and it felt great to be surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. About an hour into the party, as I was deep in conversation with a friend, I noticed Jessica enter the room. My heart raced. She looked beautiful as always, but there was a tension in the air as she scanned the room and locked eyes with me. I felt a mix of emotions flood over me: anger, sadness, and a strange thrill that I had taken control of my narrative. She approached me hesitantly, her expression a mix of surprise and something softer, perhaps regret. "I didn't know you were having a party," she said, her voice faltering slightly. "Yeah, it's a little gathering," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just catching up with friends and enjoying life." "I see that," she said, glancing around the room. "Looks really nice." "Thanks," I said, keeping my tone light, but I could feel the weight of her gaze on me. "It's good to see you. How have you been?" "I've been okay," she replied, her voice dropping to a whisper as her eyes searched mine for understanding. "I've been thinking a lot about everything." I held her gaze, determined not to show any vulnerability. "That's good to hear. I hope you're finding what you need." There was a brief silence as the tension hung between us. I could see the realization dawning on her that I was serious about moving on, and it felt empowering to know that I was reclaiming my life. After a moment, I decided to shift the focus back to my friends. "Hey, I need to check on the snacks. Let me know if you need anything," I said, turning away before she could respond. As I walked away, I felt a rush of adrenaline. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was standing tall, allowing myself to embrace the freedom that came with moving on. Jessica was no longer in control of my emotions. I was breaking free, showing her and myself that I could thrive without her. The night continued, and I reveled in the atmosphere, sharing laughter and stories with friends. I caught glimpses of Jessica engaging in conversations with others, and I knew that she was witnessing my transformation. It felt liberating, like I was shedding the weight of her infidelity and stepping into a new chapter of my life. As the party began to wind down, I found Ryan by the door, a proud grin on his face. "Dude, you killed it. You looked like you were having the time of your life." "Thanks, man," I replied, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over me. This was exactly what I needed. As the guests began to leave, I caught Jessica's eye one last time. She looked different now, a mix of admiration and regret etched on her face. I knew that I had sent a clear message. I was moving on, and I wouldn't let her betrayal define me. That night reminded me that I was worth so much more than the pain I had endured. I had taken a significant step in reclaiming my power, and while the road ahead was still uncertain, I was ready to embrace whatever came next with courage and confidence. The future was unwritten, but for the first time in a long while, I felt excited about what lay ahead. After the party, I felt a mixture of relief and exhilaration. I had taken control of my life in a way that felt empowering, and the sense of liberation washed over me like a warm wave. But while I was riding high on that victory, I knew that the aftermath of Jessica's betrayal still loomed large, and I had to confront it head-on. In the days that followed, I received a few texts from Jessica. Each one was filled with apologies and pleas for another chance. "I know I messed up," she wrote in one. "I can't stop thinking about how much I regret everything." I felt a pang of sympathy every time I read her messages, but I also reminded myself of the strength I had discovered. My resolve to not fall back into old patterns was strong. One evening, I decided to meet with her. I wanted to give her the opportunity to express herself, to hear her perspective without the emotional chaos that had defined our previous conversations. We chose a neutral cafe, a place where we could talk without the weight of our shared home hanging over us. When I walked in, Jessica was already seated at a corner table, her eyes scanning the room nervously. She looked beautiful yet vulnerable, and a part of me felt for her. As I approached, I noticed she had tears in her eyes, and my heart softened despite the walls I had built around myself. "Hey," I said quietly as I sat down across from her. "Hi," she replied, her voice trembling. "Thank you for meeting me. I really appreciate it." "I wanted to hear what you had to say," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "But I need you to be honest with me this time." "I will," she promised, taking a deep breath. "I've been doing a lot of thinking since that night. I realized how much I've taken you for granted. Everything was so good, and I let my insecurities push me into the arms of someone who didn't matter. I was looking for excitement, but I didn't realize I was throwing away the most important thing in my life." I listened intently, trying to gauge the sincerity in her words. "What do you want now?" I asked, trying to cut through the emotional haze. "Do you want to get back together?" "I want to work on myself first," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "I've started therapy. I need to understand why I did what I did, and I want to be the person you deserve. If you'll let me, I want to show you that I can change, but I know it's going to take time. I can't expect you to trust me again overnight." Her honesty struck a chord within me. I appreciated her willingness to take responsibility, but I still felt the sting of betrayal. "I need time too, Jessica. I'm still processing everything. Just because I'm moving on doesn't mean I'm ready to jump back into a relationship. I've started to find my own happiness again, and I don't want to jeopardize that. I understand, she said, her voice softening. I just want you to know that I'm committed to becoming a better person, whether that's with you or on my own. I'm so sorry for everything. The conversation lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken words. I could see that she meant what she was saying, but the question remained. Could I ever truly trust her again? As we spoke, I felt an unexpected wave of compassion. I had been so focused on my pain that I hadn't considered her struggles, her own insecurities. I let her words wash over me, contemplating the possibility of forgiveness, but the path to reconciliation was still a long and uncertain one. As we finished our coffees, I knew that while the hurt might never fully fade, I had the power to choose my own path forward. Let's take things one step at a time, I finally said, my voice steady. I'm not ready to rush back into anything, and I want you to focus on yourself too. We both need to heal. Jessica nodded, her relief palpable. Thank you for giving me a chance to talk. I'll respect your space. I stood up, feeling a mix of closure and uncertainty. As I walked away from the cafe, I felt lighter. I didn't know what the future held, but I was finally ready to embrace it, whatever it may bring. With every passing week, I focused on my own growth. I started exploring new hobbies, reconnecting with friends, and diving deeper into my career. The process of reclaiming my identity was empowering. I enjoyed the freedom to explore who I was outside of my relationship with Jessica. Over time, I realized that while Jessica was a significant part of my life, my happiness didn't rely solely on her. I began to see the silver lining in the dark cloud of betrayal. It taught me about self-worth and the importance of boundaries. I learned that I couldn't let someone else's mistakes define my value. As spring blossomed into summer, I felt stronger than ever. I had turned a painful chapter into a journey of self-discovery. For the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely excited about life and its possibilities. I knew I still had feelings for Jessica, but I also understood that I had to prioritize my own happiness above all. In the end, I realized that the choice to forgive was entirely mine, and that was incredibly powerful. Maybe one day I would allow Jessica back into my life, but for now, I was content to walk my own path. I had emerged from the ashes of betrayal, ready to embrace the future with open arms, knowing that I was worthy of love, trust, and happiness, no matter what.